That sound that we hear at the beginning, if you were listening to the sound of that bell, you'll notice how out of nothing this very full resonant sound arose, just at the moment when I struck the side with the mallet. And with one simple strike, that sound resonated for probably 30 seconds there. And it would have gone on resonating for a few minutes longer, just from one strike. So one of the reasons that a singing bowl or a bell like that can bring us into the meditation is by seeing the mind like a bell. And the mallet is our attention. We have so much power to place our attention wherever we like. We often forget that we have the choice. The attention gets dragged from here to there to here, from the mind to someone talking, to a sound, to reading, back to the mind, constantly being yanked back and forth. But we do have the ability to intentionally focus, place attention on something. So that mallet is that ability to attend to whatever we like. And the mind can be in a rested state, just like the bell. But we become so used to just banging our minds with our attention. The slightest movement in the mind, the slightest noise, a half sentence, maybe even just one word, someone's name, and suddenly our attention is just enraptured for minutes or hours, weeks, months, just watching the mind. So a simple name might come up and suddenly all the memories of that person come up. And all the resentments we have against that person come up. We find ourselves arguing in our minds that we were wronged. And then that leads to more thoughts about when we were wronged like that before. And on, entire days and lifetimes can pass, simply watching this endless trail of fantasy and memory. It's just like the bell. The bell shows us that just one strike, just one little bit of attention to the mind can make it ring for minutes. And so in our meditation practice, it would be misguided to try to quiet the mind, because the mind is by nature quiet. I don't even think we recognize the mind until 5, 6 years old. So it's quiet by nature. So rather than striving in meditation to quiet the mind, instead we focus on that mallet, start to learn how to just turn away, just shift attention from that familiar voice in the mind that will talk endlessly about anything, even things it has no knowledge of. It's just an old man, nothing to do but chatter. It doesn't seem that way if we're still fascinated by our own thoughts. It seems important. It seems like it protects us from a danger that may never have existed, or it seems like our best friend, and yet it just fills everything. In those moments of extraordinary peace and connection to others or to a higher power, those moments stand out as more vivid and more colorful because the mind comes to a sudden stop. Whether it's falling in love or being with someone you love, or a near-death accident, or something that paralyzes the mind. Suddenly everything becomes more vivid. Life becomes 3D again, and even more. It's not the busyness of the world, the noisiness of the world, that makes it difficult to meditate. What makes it difficult is sitting with ourselves, and the burden, the boredom. We have to keep acting. So there comes the problem. If here, as we sit, we're practicing turning our attention away from the mind and its thoughts and towards a higher power, just turning the attention away so that the mind can settle down and become silent. This practice is here in meditation strictly with just isolating the distraction to being the mind and its thoughts. What can we turn to place our attention on? It doesn't require thinking. So it's these autonomic things like breathing, pulse or heartbeat, sensations of warmth or cold, something that hits the senses, which we can have an experience of without thinking about them. You don't need to think heartbeat, 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 heartbeat. There's no failure in this practice either. The only failure is to look for results, whether from a single practice or over any time span. It's the surest way to be talked out of spiritual practice. It's looking at it like a vending machine. And the only reason is because it's the mind that's looking for results. And often the mind is controlled by character defects. The mind that fears and desires. Fears activate the character defects. So when it says in the book that our thought life will be placed on a higher plane, it's a plane that's free of desire and fear. And that's possible by repeated experiences of the peace that's your very nature. The quiet that is at your core. It's a detachment. No longer having to be your name, your past, or your identity as a parent or employee, or whatever other titles you assume. Is falling to a place of anonymity. Simply just being, without limitation. So just keep falling back in this meditation. Falling back is another way to turn attention away from the thoughts. As you sit here, and hopefully have begun to settle in, you feel that gravity just pulling you down gently. The more that you can let go of the muscle tension that might be in your body, the gentler gravity seems to be. And this natural movement of sinking into the body has a quality of receding to it as well. Just like when the tide goes out. There's a dropping and a pulling back. So as your body begins to relax, anytime you notice your attention is on your thoughts, whenever your attention is on a word or an image, just fall back from it. Just go deeper. Fall away from the distraction. You'll find that the more you can let go and drift backwards and down, keep discovering deeper parts of yourself. parts that eventually can't be touched by words. You fall back so far from the mind that you can't hear it anymore. Just keep going. Keep dropping deeper. Thoughts will start to slow. And as you drop deeper at some point, begin to lose sense of what's deeper and what's up. Everything opens. There's just light. If I asked you to describe yourself to me, you may be able to give me a full biography, hundreds of thousands of words of who you are. And yet every one of us has had an experience of ourselves that we could never tell another about. There's a sense of self that's so deep. We can't even think about it or describe it. So deep and changeless. It's that part that doesn't feel age. So that part of you, that experience of yourself that you can't tell me, it's where we return to in these meditations. Just go to that place by falling. That place where there's no one to be and there's nothing to do.